Welcome everybody to D-constructing Topics podcast, the hottest podcast that's going on now. It's been a while. Took a couple of weeks hiatus, and kind of needed to clear my mind a little bit here and there. But we here. We're doing another episode. You already know here we deconstruct topics about life, politics, philosophy, and all that is in between. So we already know this podcast is going to be a little bit personal. Just give you a heads up. A little bit personal. A bit sensitive. But I'm going to say a lot of things that people might say, whoa, whoa. And it's definitely a personal topic for me. As we're going to be discussing the story of Kalief Browder and the weaponization of migrants. So it's going to be like two podcasts in one, but you're going to definitely you're going to see what the connection would be in regards to those two topics that we'll be discussing. Absolutely. As always, I appreciate the support, all that good feedback that I'm getting. One of my brothers in arms, but they see me now, they call me the deconstructor because I'm the author, the host of Deconstructing Topics. So absolutely. Let's get on with the show. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit on the personal side, a little on that sensitive side, a little bit. And I apologize in advance, but hey, this is a topic that I've been wanting to discuss forever and ever. And we basically said Kalief Browder and the weaponization of migrants. So just to give you an idea, a heads up on this one. Well, actually, let me get to the story of Kalief Browder. He was a 16-year-old kid from the Bronx, right? Though that's right there. It's why I'm saying it that it's personal because it's on my backyard. And he was arrested in 2016. He was accused. I'm sorry, 2010. He was accused of stealing a book bag or some backpack. He was detained. He did some 3 years in Rikers Island. And in those 3 years, I believe like half or more than half of those 3 years, he did solitary confinement. There's a Netflix, I believe it's Netflix, or I believe that there's definitely a documentary that's out there. I'll put it in the link in regards to his story, a sad story. And I'm just going to give a little summary here of why this is personal. As he was in solitary confinement, a lot of stuff happened in Rikers. When he got out, he started talking about his story, and he went on a couple of talk shows and so on. And one of the things that they mentioned in that documentary is that as he was doing appearances talking about something that needs to be changed in our system, in our prison system, there were kids that thought that he had money, and they tried to jump him a couple of times. They tried to break into his house a couple of times, something to that effect. And he was wrongfully charged with something that he didn't do, which was stealing the backpack. And one of the things, unfortunately, after what happened to him in prison, such at a young age, what was happening in his home or in his backyard, and he took also abuse from the police. Let me not forget that part. There's videos out there of what he went through, and it's very sad what happened. And in prison, when he was in Rikers, my understanding is that some of the correction officers allowed these group of kids, other kids or other people, to kind of break into a door and put him where he was by himself, and he was just getting attacked by these kids because he had a problem with one of them. Because hey, listen, you go to prison, and you got to stand your ground. And it seems that Kalief Browder was one of those kids that he didn't want to be part of a, hey, listen, gang or whatever the case, because he was on his own. He's independent. But unfortunately, it looks like he rubbed somebody the wrong way. Some of the correction officers, apparently he rubbed them the wrong way. So they decided, hey, you want to fight? Go ahead, by all means. We'll stop the fight. Very sad. And And the most saddest thing about this part is that all that happened, and I remember watching the documentary. I was like, wow, this Kalief kid he reminds me of so much of stuff that happens in the Bronx, where young kids fall into these cracks. The system just gets them. But for some reason, Kalief was like on some, I'm on a mission. I want to help myself get better. And I felt that because I was, at one point when I was 15, 16, I was in the system in terms of, I was living in a shelter system. So I could have just fall through the cracks, if you will. But something about me, I always said, just don't give up. And that's another podcast that I'll be talking about. For those listeners out there, for those people that are seeking motivation, to just don't give up. So with this Kalief Browder situation, it's like, wow, it was sad. But again, the sad part of it is that with all that said and done, all that stress, what happened to him in prison at home, he decided to take his own life, which devastating, very sad. That right now it hits me because it's personal. Because he was, he's one of those kids that you say to yourself, and it happens a lot in these neighborhoods. Small kids, but the system just grabs you and doesn't want to. It shoots you and doesn't want to spit you out. And when it does spit you out, you're done. And so it's just at the age of 22, after years that what he went through and trying to better himself, and there was a lot of people that was trying to enable him to help him because. Unfortunately, he started going through a little mental breakdown. For those people that have mental health issues, definitely there's support here. There's a lot of support all over. So I'm here, that's for sure. But one of those things, he cracked, and unfortunately, he decided to take his own life. Sad. But one of the things that I noticed in that situation, something that people didn't, I have not heard anybody talk about it, but I'm gonna bring it up because I know I experienced it, and I know that it happens in our neighborhood. So he was accused of stealing a book bag, and the two people that accused him, my understanding, were migrants. Yeah, migrants. This is where the weaponization of migrant part will come in. And this is something that I'm going to say that a lot of people don't like to touch this little topic here what I'm about to say, but I'm about to say what I'm about to say. So you got these two kids, young kids, migrants, who point the finger at, hey, ellos fueron, because they were Spanish. Oh, ellos fueron. They did it. That's Spanish, a little bit of Spanish for those who understand it. Ellos fueron, they did it. And it's interesting because I've come across a lot of migrants, and I'll, touch a little bit of here and there, from Mexico, Central America, South America, is that if something was to happen to you, and in this case, supposedly, and just to give you an idea, he never stole the book bag. I think it was somebody else. But my thing, when I read that part, I said, So two migrant kids blame a black kid for stealing a book bag. That's not the first time I hear something like this. Because if one thing that I've noticed, especially in the Bronx and in our neighborhoods, we got blacks, we got the Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Mexicans, Central American. We got a little bit of everything. Little melting pot, as they would say. A lot of times we don't get along. We wind up doing, gangs and this and that and all that. And that's where I say this. There's a lot of parents, older people that migrate to this country. They have kids, or let's say they have young kids. And if one thing they say, oh, if something bad happens to you, blame it on them, meaning the blacks. Oh yeah, things like that happens. I've heard and I've seen it. And I remember I was in the 5th grade. There was this kid. I remember there was this Spanish kid, Honduran, very smart, eloquent. I remember he spoke very eloquently. I remember every time that he gives an answer, he'll get up, put his arms on the back. Hey, teacher, the answer would be this. And smart kid. And I remember one time our teacher, because I was in what we would call a bilingual class, meaning that all those kids there were Spanish. So we was in a bilingual class. So there's a lot of kids there that wasn't that fluent in English that much, including me. I was just learning. And I remember one day, like, he would have the answers for everything. And the teacher was like looking at us like, is there anybody else that's gonna answer as besides him? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess. So he spoke very eloquently, very smart. But I always remember this. I remember when we used to, after school, after 3 o'clock, there was a park across. So where we'll sometimes go to a little park, People's Park, it was called, 142nd in Brook Avenue. Shout out. Oh, that's that neighborhood. That's that neighborhood. One of those neighborhoods, Mount Haven. Woo, fire back then. But I remember when we used to go and play, we'll go and play. But I also had a couple of black friends. I remember I had one little black friend, cool peoples. They were like a little brothers back then. You know, he was teaching me English a lot. And when I'll go and hang out with my black friend, the Spanish kid was like, nah, I gotta go home. Or, another day. And I didn't know what was going on, but it was just strange to me that he would only play and hang out with the Latinos, right? But I remember when it was, a black or 2 black people that would be hanging out. He's like, oh, But it didn't hit me until as I got older. And I remember that year when we graduated to the 6th grade. I remember he was telling me something like that his parents was like, oh, stay away from the black kids because they just troublemakers. I'm like, wow, okay. And it's funny because I remember that same year there was these black kids. One time they were calling me, they were telling me, hey, go back home, go back to Mexico. And I'm like, Mexico? I'm not Mexican, Puerto Rican. But sure, if you want to send me there, you want to pay for a little vacation. But you would think like, oh, man, that sounds like a little racist thing. But I understood. As I got older, I'm like, wait a minute. So these migrants that come here, and this is their mentality, but they over here living with us. Now, for the most part, in a lot of these neighborhoods, you always got the blacks, the Puerto Ricans, the Mexicans, and Dominican, and then you get with the others, the Hondurans, Guatemalan, Salvadorian. You got a little bit of spots of here and there. So I remember how all this was going on, and I said to myself, that's interesting. How these individuals come and they come in our neighborhoods. Like, why are they not living in other neighborhoods somewhere with with the white people? And that's when you start to think. And I remember there was one of the folks that I listened to, Nick Cruz from the Revolutionary Blackout Network. He was on Twitter and he was engaging in a conversation, and I'll chime in too, where he was saying that they basically use that a lot of these individuals that are claimed to be pro-migrant, they actually use migrants to destroy black neighborhoods. And this is why I'm doing this podcast. And I always said the same thing. There's something odd. And I'm in New York City. New York City, very liberal, pro everything. But I just find it a little bit odd. How is it that these migrants end up in our neighborhood? Like, why are not in those nice little neighborhoods with the white people, 72nd Street, Park Avenue? Why are they not there? And that's when you start to realize, and I agree with him, is that they're not here to say, hey, I mean, some of these people that are claim to be progressive, liberal, yeah, we want migrants because we want to help. Hey, listen, I want to help too, but don't by 1 second think that a lot of those individuals that are in the streets, let's help migrants and all that, they know what they're doing. So by then allowing migrants to go to these black neighborhoods, it's not to help the migrants, to destroy the black neighborhood. They'll use the police, they'll throw in some guns, drugs, and they know that, hey, listen, when there's poverty and people are scrapping or fighting for crumbs, what you do? Hey, throw in some little guns. Let them bring guns from the south, whatever it is. Everything is all set up. It's not accidental, and I don't even think anything like that is incidental. Hey, listen, they let them come. As a matter of fact, we'll drop a couple of drugs here and there. They do it because they know that, hey, we're gonna probably try to pop each other off just to survive. But that's how it is, and I always said to myself, and it's interesting because I go back to that Kalief Browder, and that's the one little piece that I've noticed, that there's a lot of people like that a lot of migrants that say, hey, fueron ellos. It was them, meaning the blacks. And this is where Nick Cruz from the Revolutionary Black Network's like, why can't we just get together? Because one of the things that they perpetuated on the minds of the blacks is that these migrants come to take your job. And I'm like, no, don't think that way. Why is it that we fighting against each other, but let's go after the person that's setting us up like that? That's why I'm so against the Uniparty, which is another podcast, the Democrats and the Republicans. One hand watches the other. Ain't no difference in those two parties. I'll be touching another podcast on that situation. We're in New York City. We live in one of the most liberal cities in the United States. And I'm like, wow. Why is it now because of the migrant populations going on, you're going to see little different, these shelters pop up in these nice neighborhoods. Now they're complaining. Oh, there's too many people now. I believe the mayor, Eric Adams, might have said, oh, well, I think we need to change our status of a sanctuary city, meaning a city that allows migrants and they're protected. Oh, now it's an issue because now they're going into these shelters now out of nowhere are popping up in these nice streets in the 72nd Street in Manhattan. Oh, now you're complaining. But all this time you was using migrants to destroy those black neighborhoods. And I always saw something like I always seen, and that's my thing. I've been an observant. I observe. I'm sorry. It's like how these migrants are next to these black neighborhoods. Like you go for the most part, these big cities, Chicago, Houston, New York City, LA. You don't see them living next to white people. And it's funny because there's other migrants like Bangladesh. They in a little spot together, but they're not within, how can I say, in the housing projects like that with the blacks and the Puerto Ricans and the Mexicans. We got the Asians too. They got their own little thing, their own little section. But again, they're not spread out like we are. You might say, some people, well, they like to stick with their neighbor. I agree with that. But at the same time, the system, it picks and chooses where these migrants go. If there's a black uprising, let's say the black people in this city decided, you know what? I ain't voting Democrat at all. I ain't voting at all. Trust me, you're going to start seeing more migrants come to those cities because, that's kind of like the little old word. So you're not going to vote for me? Let's say if I'm a Democrat. Okay. I guess your issue's not going to matter. So I'm going to bring I'm going to allow some migrants to go into your neighborhood. You divide and conquer, basically. It's that mentality. And with the Kalief Browder situation, I mean, it hurts my soul because it's, it's personal. It gets a little personal. Because there's a lot of kids like that. Really want actual black leaders? Kalief Browder could have been one. Who thought independent, who just said to him, to himself, like, hey, I want to succeed. I want to do something different. Now that I went through the system, now I know what to talk about. But that same system that broke him is that same system that got him down. He will go back to his neighborhood in the Bronx, and you see people around him thinking, oh, he got money now, so let's rob his house. Let's rob him. And unfortunately, that's poverty. When that's another issue that we were taught, is that in a lot of these neighborhoods where there's migrants, blacks, got the Puerto Ricans, there's poverty. When there's poverty, it seems that we only conditioned to attack each other instead of just rising up and go after this unit party, because at the end of the day, this unit party is the one that controls everything. And I always tell people, you don't have to pick a side. You don't have to pick a side. You don't have to vote for them at all. There's other independent people out there, because they're going to continue to use this system to destroy black neighborhoods. And when that black neighborhood starts to build on their own, something happens. So it's a definitely interesting story. A lot of people either remember the Kalief Browder story, or people don't know, but that's one thing. And I remember, I believe it was a Malcolm X movie, the Spike Lee one. And I think at the end, they do this, I'm Malcolm X. I'm Malcolm X. We got these different people, different ages, going on that little, I'm Malcolm X. And with Kalief, I'm Kalief Browder. There's a lot of beautiful kids out there that they just deprived from something because of the system that used migrants to destroy your neighborhood. And that's just one situation there. Because there's other situations that I will touch bases, but I remember when on the Trump administration, the war, whatever it is that was going on, you see a lot of people marching, hey, separation family, kids in cages and all that. And I'm saying to myself, well, this has been happening for a long time, way before Trump. And it's still happening now, but you don't see anybody say anything at all anymore. But you see how they pick these things, out of nowhere. So now Trump is the bad guy. So now we need to show support for the migrants. But now it's worse. There's more kids in cages. There's more separation, but nobody's saying anything. I wonder, right? Also, now you got a Democratic president, and now you don't say anything. Why? Because if you say anything, what they're going to do? What they do when you was against people that started feeling disappointed with Obama. Oh, now you're racist. Oh, now you're right-wing. Now you're pro-Trump. Nah. I'm anti-unity party. That unity party, it's making suckers every day, every second. And Kalief could have been here with us. He could have been a great leader. He could have been here with us. And that's one of the things that I do sometimes in my time. I try to find space, find time to mentor. I've come across young kids like that because, remember, I grew up in the Bronx. I live in New York City. I know how it works. The only difference was that because I was not born here. I was born in Puerto Rico. Is that I started seeing things a little bit different than people that are born here. See, people that are born here, they're conditioned. They're trained to think like one thought. So that's one of those things that, yeah. So, this ran a little bit long, but I needed to kind of let things out of my chest because I've been wanting to do this episode. It's 2 episodes in one. Kalief Browder in the weaponized station of the migrants. Don't think for a second that migrants come, yes, those people that are streaming, yes, we're gonna help people. No, don't think that all the time that they doing it to really help people. No, they doing it to screw you over to the black community. Sounds a little bit controversial, but I like it. Everybody's much love, my people. I forgot to mention that. Much thank you, much support. You already know. It's the hottest podcast. Spread it. Spread it to your people. Put it on blast. Put it on speaker. Put it on all that. Like I always say, I might not be fluent in English, but I'm fluent in common sense. So let's put the sense back in common sense and show people, hey, let's make it happen. Well, I'm out of here. Great episode. Much love. I'm out. Peace.